Соединенные Штаты опоздали лет на 15. Они не смогут остановить развитие Китая. Это невозможно сделать, так же, как вот невозможно сказать Солнцу: не вставай, оно все равно поднимется. Но есть объективные процессы экономического развития. Они связаны с миллионом факторов. И вот эта попытка сдержать развитие Китая, она негативно отражается и на экономике самих Соединенных Штатов. Они делают производство ряда своих товаров низкоконкурентоспособными. А если дальше пойдут по этому пути, сделают вообще неконкурентоспособными в отдельной отрасли экономики. Так сложилась кооперация на протяжении предыдущих десятилетий между экономикой Китая и Соединенными Штатами. Она взаимосвязана. Все это понимают. Но вот те действия, которые мы наблюдаем сегодня со стороны Штатов, мне кажется, что они имеют контрпродуктивный характер. Но знаете, я вам хочу что сказать.
Hey, Shalom. I'd like to start out by giving all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Urka Kwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect of Israel. This is the Mayim in Atlanta, and as you just saw there, Putin is mocking Babylon the Great, aka US of A. And he's saying their efforts to bring their economy back are pointless. They're useless and counterproductive, and that this action has occurred, he says, 15 years too late. He also mentioned that the economies of China and the US are actually intertwined, interconnected. And you see that because most of the things that are produced or brought here in America or purchased, they're from China. The vast majority of it. And China makes a lot of money off of the US, but the US is able to live comfortably from the products that are brought from China. And they're just interconnected in this whole scheme with the tariffs and all that. It's just too little, too late. And that's exactly what Putin is saying. And he also mentioned that you can't stop the development of China, in which China is developing much faster than the US. There's this clip here is from GMS Banzab, and that the TikTok that I got, that was from Elder Abba in our group. He dropped it in the group and thought I'd do a lesson on it. But this Chinese development is being showed here in this lesson by GMS Banzab, brother up in Detroit. He makes great lessons. I feed often from his lessons. But check out China's development here.
So cooked. One of the biggest streamers in the world, Speed, is in China right now, and somehow he got access to all the crazy Chinese EVs that we've been talking about all year. And now it kind of makes more sense why we're not allowed to have them in America. We're talking flying cars, bunny hopping cars, and even a truck that can drive on water like a boat. Speed was able to test drive some of BYD's craziest cars. First off is their electric supercar, the Yangwang U9. This thing has over 1,000 horsepower, 0 to 60 in like 2 seconds, and has a top speed of 250 miles per hour. But Speed was definitely way more impressed with the car's ability to leap off the ground. He found a button that literally made the car hurtle into the air multiple inches from a standstill. The car's suspension also gives it the ability to dance with the music you're playing, and you can even make it rock with the motion of your phone. After that, he was already taking out his wallet trying to buy one of these things, but it got even crazier when he drove the Yangwang U8 SUV. This truck can literally double as a boat. The guys at BYD loaded up this truck with 5 dudes, including Speed, and drove it into the middle of a lake. He drove it into the water like some crazy James Bond vehicle, and then ferried them around the water like some kind of pontoon. By the end of that demonstration, Speed was practically begging to buy one of them. In that same day, he also became the first ever public person to drive a flying car. This one is from Ehang, and it's a real-life passenger vehicle meant to fly you around
Hey, that boy out there living his best life.
cities. He got in and only let them fly it straight up and straight down, but the entire process was completely autonomous and actually looked pretty comfortable. It's safe to say that this Chinese tech and these cars are blowing my mind.
So America's not leading the one-horse race anymore.
Khan, he just said it there. America is not at the top of development, at the top of technology and development and of society. They have lost their position and they're trying to stall China's progress, so that's where these tariffs came in. But going back to the Putin clip, which he was talking about China's development, they can't stop that. And give me 1 second. I'm going to find one more tweet. And so, back to the Putin clip, he was talking about stalling China's development. And as you see, they're very far ahead of American products as far as electric vehicles go and just other things in general. And they're trying to stop these things from happening so that the U.S. can keep its position on top. And here's a tweet to verify that. It says, U.S. Treasury Secretary says this was President Trump's strategy all along, to put China into a bad position through these tariffs that are imposed. And last I saw, they're up to 145%, which is going to really just cripple American society because there's so much intertwined. Most American companies actually get some type of parts or manufacturing or labor from China. Most trade comes through China, and the U.S. is trying to basically just being greedy and wanting to keep their position, but this is all over. This is the end of Western civilization, and it's really the end of this age that we've been in, because they're trying to bring this completely down to push us into this fourth industrial revolution, in which really behind the scenes China and the US and the other nations are all working together to in the current front that we're in to bring their NWO. They're crashing all of the economies, and you do that through the US and through China. But getting into the scriptures, I'm going to start out here in Jeremiah 51 and verse 9. It says, we would have healed Babylon, Babylon being America, but she is not healed. Forsake her. And really, you can't heal this place. This is the end of the time of the Gentiles. So you're watching their decline. But especially Babylon, it's had its heyday, it's over, it's falling. You could look into how empires rise and fall, and you could see that we are in the decadent stage, in the last stage, and really past the decadent stage. We're about to watch the complete and total downfall of Babylon the Great, and with that comes the exposure of the Edomites. And eventually the world will see that these are the sons of perdition. These are the wicked, because they've done nothing but ruled in wickedness. Now it's time for them to go down. But for the other nations, it says, forsake her, and let us go everyone into his own country. So you're going to start seeing that more and more. And they're already doing that with these tariff wars and these with the exposure and the mocking of the U.S. They're already forsaking her, because this is a sinking ship. But eventually you're going to see people really grouping up with their own kind, because also there's going to be race wars. There's going to be wars on every single front with the fall of Babylon the Great. It says, and thus with great violence shall that city Babylon fall. It's coming down. It says, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven, because they have broken every single law within the scriptures, and at the same time hold it and say it's the law of the land, and that they are the true Christians, and that they are the true ish people, the people of the Lord. But they're truly Edomites, and the Edomites would run Babylon. And who else could you say is running America than the so-called white man and the small hats? That's who's running this place, and that's who's going to get the greatest amount of judgment. It says, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies, because they've done so much, these Edomites, that they can't be forgiven. It's unforgivable. Stealing our heritage, that is unforgivable. Placing it on top of yourself while you sold us into slavery, unforgivable. It's really the lies that are the vast lies. It's unforgivable. You can barely live here because they pollute the water and the air. It's unforgivable. These people are gonna go down. They're going down, and they're gonna serve out a hardcore slavery, and then they're gonna be completely wiped off of this earth. Nothing good can come to them. They've seen the best of days, and they're complaining about it because China's taking their position. But ultimately, Yahweh Shai comes and takes all of their positions. That's why he'll be wearing many crowns. I'm gonna jump to 2nd Esdras 15 and 46, because these guys are all interconnected. The elite especially, they're interconnected, and they're all in cahoots to bring down the current state of society, to push a new world order, a new society that they have envisioned. But this is 2nd Esdras 15, because it says, and thou Asia, and you could both include Russia and China and the other countries over there in this, because part of Russia is within Asia. Really, all of it's Asia, and there's not really a Europe, just like Elder Malcolm says. That's just Western Asia. But so-called white man, in his never-ending adventure to try to prove that he is supreme, thinks that he deserves his own continent, but it's not even. It's part of Asia. Europe is not a continent. There's only 6 continents. And it says, and thou Asia, that art partaker of the hope of Babylon, but really speaking to China here, and art the glory of her person, because they're in cahoots to bring the world economies down so that they could establish a new economy, a digital economy, and then push this mandatory MOTB, the RFID micro CHIP, onto everybody in the world. They're going to make that mandatory, and they're doing this together, all of the elites. It says, thou hast followed her that is hated, jumping down to 48, thou hast followed her that is hated in all her works and inventions. They followed the Edomites, they followed Babylon the Great in Western society to try to be like them and to try to get over them. But all these things are hated. These are a corrupt people, but you've modeled yourself after them. So it says, therefore, saith the Most High, I will send plagues upon thee, widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence, to waste thy houses with destruction and death. All of the Gentile nations are about to fall. That includes America, that includes China, that includes Russia, that includes all of these heathen and the power structures that they've set up. But first and foremost, it's Babylon the Great and the beast that this whore of a country rides on top of, that being NATO and the EU, the beast, and America being the whore. They're all falling, but those are the forefront of who has to be punished the most. who's going to fall the most, but Asia is definitely going to get a piece from Yahweh Shai, as well as all of these other countries, all these other heathen countries, and all the heathen. They're all going into slavery. But after this great royal rumble that we'll call World War III, after that, and all these places are going to be touched and brought down. Thus saith the Lord. And so, Lord willing, that was edifying. I'd like to give all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakak, Wadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the great millstone. Shalom to the elect of Israel. Shalom.